Autumn at Mount Lingtai Fongsuan arrives earlier than elsewhere. Golden leaves cover the stone steps. I sweep them step by step, from the mountain gate to the backyard, and then from the backyard back to the gate. 10,000 years, every day the same. Master meditates in his cave dwelling, occasionally coming out to give a sermon on the Tao, then returning immediately after. He doesn't teach spells or divine powers. He only speaks of the Tao. The junior brothers who don't understand come to find me. Eldest senior brother, how exactly do I practice the one chi transforming into 3 purities that Master spoke of? Eldest senior brother, I've memorized the mantra for the 72 transformations, but I can't make them work. Eldest senior brother, I teach them one by one. When they finish learning, they go down the mountain. Each is more capable than the last. Some went to the heavenly court to serve as officials. Some went to the bottom of the sea to claim kingship, and one caused havoc in the heavenly palace only to be suppressed for 500 years, turning into a Buddha after he emerged. I do not go down the mountain. The mountain is quiet, the leaves are easy to sweep, and the days pass slowly. Until 300 years ago, a white lump appeared outside the gate. I almost missed it as I swept toward the entrance. A rabbit, the size of a palm, curled up on the very bottom step. Its fur was so filthy its color was unrecognizable, and its left ear drooped. When it looked up at me, its eyes were filled with mist. I crouched down. It shrank back slightly, yet lacked the strength to run. Hungry. It looked at me, its nose twitching. I pulled half a pastry from my sleeve and placed it on the ground. It hesitated for a moment, then leaned in to nibble at it in tiny bites. When it was finished, it looked up at me. I pulled out another piece. And so, it followed me up the mountain. Master took one look at it and said, "Accept him." Thus, he became my youngest junior brother. I named him Xiaobai. For 300 years, he grew from the size of a palm until he could take human form, the appearance of a child of 7 or 8, with white hair and red eyes. When he gets nervous, his ears pop out from the top of his head. I teach him basic breathing techniques, simple transformation arts, and how to read, brew tea, and sweep fallen leaves. He learns slowly, but he is earnest. Every morning as I sweep the courtyard, he follows behind me, holding a broom taller than himself, sweeping with serious effort. When he can no longer sweep, he sits on the ground and watches me. As he watches, he begins to doze, his head nodding little by little, his ears poking out from his hair and swaying in the wind. I carried it back into the room and tucked it in with a blanket. 300 years passed. That evening, I was brewing tea. Xiaobai sat across from me, holding a teacup with both hands. The steam from the cup made its bangs flutter up and down. Senior brother, what is it like, down the mountain? My hand stopped for a moment as I poured the tea. It's vast, I said, and noisy. Have you been there, senior brother? No. It lowered its head to blow on the tea, then looked up again. Where did all those senior brothers go after they went down the mountain? I thought for a moment. Everywhere. Can I go see for myself? The water in the kettle bubbled and gurgled. I looked at it. Its eyes were bright, reflecting the light of the stove fire, and its ears were pricked straight up, the way it looked only when it was particularly looking forward to something. Go then. It was stunned for a moment. Then it smiled, revealing 2 little canine teeth. I'll be back soon. 3 days. I'll be back in just 3 days. It jumped up and ran 2 circles around the table, its ears trembling with excitement. I nodded, took a jade talisman from my sleeve, and handed it over. If you encounter danger, crush it. It took the talisman, tucked it carefully into its robe, and patted it. Don't worry, senior brother. And then it ran off. It ran to the courtyard gate, then doubled back to hug my arm and nuzzle against it before finally running away for real. The small white figure went hopping and skipping down the stone steps, growing smaller and smaller until it finally vanished into the mist. I picked up my teacup and took a sip. It had gone cold. On the first day, I swept the courtyard. The next day, I swept the courtyard. The third day, after I finished sweeping, I sat at the mountain gate and waited. I waited until sunset. He didn't return. On the morning of the 4th day, I sat at the mountain gate once more. The wind swept up the fallen leaves on the stone steps, swirling them as they drifted down the mountain. I watched those leaves drift away, my broom propped against the ground. The jade talisman did not shatter. This meant he was not in danger. Then why hadn't he returned? I waited for another half day. When the sun began to tilt toward the west, I stood up and leaned the broom against the side of the gate. I turned and walked toward the cave dwelling. Master was still in the same posture, meditating with his eyes closed, while a celestial crane preened its feathers beside him. Master, I am going down the mountain. Master opened one eye to look at me. In 10,000 years, this was the first time I had ever said those words. He looked at me for a long time, then closed his eye. Go then. He paused, then added, don't tear down the mountain. I didn't understand what he meant by that. I changed into a clean set of gray cloth clothes, tied back my hair, and stepped down onto the stone stairs. Step by step, I walked a path I hadn't trodden in 10,000 years. As the clouds and mist parted, the aura of the lower realm rushed toward me, noisy, turbid, and restless. It was completely different from the mountain. I took a deep breath and continued downward. The lower realm had changed a lot. When Master picked me up 10,000 years ago, this place was still a primordial wilderness. Now, there were cities, kingdoms, immortal sects, and the territories of the demon race. The three realms are distinct, each with its own order. I followed Xiao Bai's scent and headed east. Its scent was faint, like a thin thread drifting intermittently in the wind. After walking for half a day, I reached a city. 3 words were carved into the city gate, Yaoguang City. The city was bustling with people coming and going, cultivators and mortals living side by side. There were stalls selling spirit fruits, vendors hawking magical artifacts, and a storyteller in a tea house recounting anecdotes of the 3 realms. As the story goes, the great sage equal to heaven wreaked havoc in the heavenly palace 500 years ago, then escorted Tang Sanzang on his journey to the west to obtain scriptures, eventually becoming the victorious fighting Buddha. I paused for a moment. The victorious fighting Buddha. That monkey was my 3rd junior brother. When he first arrived back then, he was filthy too, with matted fur, but his eyes were incredibly bright, and he was a quick learner. It took me 3 days to teach him the 72 transformations, and he mastered it. The somersault cloud was even faster, only an hour. I continued walking. Xiao Bai's scent grew stronger in an alley in the east of the city. At the end of the alley stood a manor, the plaque above the door reading, Yun family. 2 guards stood at the gate. Their cultivation wasn't high, only at the Tongzi realm. I walked over. Stop. The one on the left blocked my path, looking me up and down. What are you here for? Looking for someone. Who? A white rabbit. The 2 guards exchanged a look and then laughed. The one on the left laughed so hard his shoulders shook. A white rabbit? You mean that little demon? The one on the right scoffed. That little thing was taken by our young master 3 days ago and is locked in a spirit beast cage in the backyard. Who are you to it? I looked at him. It's senior brother. Senior brother? The guard on the right was amused. He leaned against the doorframe, crossing his legs. The senior brother of a low-level rabbit demon? How impressive. What sect are you from? What's your cultivation level? Do you have a formal visiting card? You can't enter without one. Those are the Yun family's rules. I didn't say anything. The one on the left waved his hand. Enough, enough, don't block the way. The Yun residence isn't a place for the likes of you. That rabbit is the young master's chosen pet. Want it back? Bring 100,000 spirit stones to redeem it. Having finished, he turned around and stopped looking at me. I stood where I was. The wind poured in from the mouth of the alley, fluttering the hem of my gray cloth robes. Spirit beast cage. I repeated those 3 words. My voice was very soft, but the guard on the left suddenly felt a chill on the back of his neck. He reflexively turned his head. The person in gray was still standing there, expression unchanged, posture unchanged. But he felt something was off. It was as if the air had grown heavy. Are you leaving or not? If you don't leave, I'm calling for help, he barked, bolstering his courage. I lifted my foot and walked inside. You? The guard reached out to stop me. The moment his hand touched my shoulder, his entire body was flung back as if repelled by an invisible wall, flying backward and slamming into the wall on the opposite side of the alley, shattering 3 bricks. The other guard's pupils constricted. Just as he was about to shout, his throat felt as though it were being gripped by something, and no sound came out. I didn't stop, continuing inward. The manor gates opened by themselves before me. I didn't push them. The house was afraid. The Yun residence was vast. Pavilions, towers, rockeries, and flowing water. The spiritual energy was abundant. Following Xiaobai's scent, I passed through the front courtyard and the atrium, heading all the way to the back. I encountered several servants along the way. They froze upon seeing me. Some tried to stop me, but the moment they took a step, their legs gave out and they knelt on the ground, as if being pressed down by something. They didn't know what was happening, nor did I intentionally do anything. I was merely walking. In the deepest part of the backyard stood a row of iron cages. Various spirit beasts were imprisoned inside. Firefoxes, blue phoenixes, horned pythons, all slumped and listless, with restrictive collars around their necks. The cage in the furthest corner was the smallest. Xiaobai was curled up inside. It had reverted to its rabbit form, no larger than a palm, huddled in a ball. There was a bloody gash on its left ear, and a patch of fur had been torn away, exposing the pink skin beneath. Around its neck was a collar, thicker than its own head. It was trembling. I knelt down. Xiaobai. Its ears twitched. Then it jerked its head up. In its red eyes was first blankness, then disbelief, and finally, "S senior brother?" Its voice was so hoarse it was barely audible, its nose twitching. I reached out and grasped the iron bars of the cage. The bars were etched with array patterns, said to be capable of trapping spirit beasts of the deity transformation stage. I gave a gentle squeeze. The iron bars bent like noodles. The array patterns flared for a moment, then shattered. The entire cage fell apart, iron fragments clattering to the ground. Xiaobai stood frozen in place, the collar around its neck still buzzing. I extended my index finger and tapped the collar. The restrictive runes on the collar extinguished one by one, like candles blown out by the wind. When the last rune flickered out, the collar cracked with a clack and fell to the floor. Xiaobai shuddered, then lunged forward, throwing itself into my arms. It was light as a leaf, but it was shaking violently. I scooped it up and held it in my palm. It buried its head between my fingers, its ears pressed flat against its body. "Does it hurt?" It shook its head. As it shook, a fresh bead of blood seeped from the gash on its ear. I wiped it away with my sleeve. "Who did this?" It didn't speak, but its body trembled even more violently. I stood up, tucked it into my robes, and wrapped it securely. I turned around. A young man stood at the entrance of the backyard, followed by 7 or 8 guards and a white-haired elder. The young man was dressed in rich silks and a jade belt, idly fanning himself with a folding fan. The expression on his face shifted from surprise to fury. "Who are you? Who let you in?" "That is my spirit pet." He saw the dismantled cage and the fragments of the collar on the ground. Snapping his fan shut, he pointed at me. "How bold. Do you know where this is?" "This is the Yun family. My father is the city lord of Yaoguang City." "You." "The ears," I said. He froze. "What?" "Its ears." I looked down at Little White in my arms. "Who did this?" The young man was taken aback for a moment. Then he laughed, a laugh full of disdain. "It's just a rabbit. What's wrong with giving it a lesson if it doesn't behave?" He snapped his fan open. "I think you're tired of living." "Men." I looked at him. I just looked at him. The young man's voice caught in his throat. The guards behind him all took a step back in unison, their faces turning deathly pale. The white-haired elder's pupils contracted violently, and his legs began to tremble. He saw it. The man in gray had no spiritual pressure, no fluctuations of power, nothing at all. But his cultivation told him, "Run. Run now. Run as far as you can." Young master." The elder's voice shook. "This person is not someone we can provoke." The young man still hadn't realized. "What do you mean?" "A pauper in gray cloth." I raised a hand. Just a slight lift. The ground of the entire backyard split open. Cracks spread out from beneath my feet like a spider web. Iron cages, stone tables, and decorative rockeries all shattered and sank. The cages holding the spirit beasts crumbled, their collars snapped, and the beasts fled in all directions in terror. The floor tiles beneath the young man exploded. He was sent flying by the shockwave, slamming heavily against the wall as his folding fan flew out and embedded itself into a stone pillar. He slumped on the ground, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth, his eyes wide with terror. You. I looked down at him. His name is Little White. My voice was flat. He is my junior brother. The Yun state had erupted. Not metaphorically, it literally exploded. The entire backyard had collapsed, rubble and dust soaring into the sky, a pillar of smoke visible to half of Yaoguang City. By the time I walked out of the ruins holding Little White, the Yun family's front courtyard was already packed with people. Servants, guards, stewards, and protectors, a dense, dark mass of people. Standing at the very front was a middle-aged man with a square face and a beard, wearing the robes of a city lord, his brows knitted tightly together. Behind him stood 3 old men with profound auras. They were likely the Yun family's trump cards, 3 body integration stage protectors. The middle-aged man's face turned livid when he saw the white rabbit in my arms and his son being carried out behind me. You have quite the nerve. His voice was low, like muffled thunder before a storm. Injuring my son and destroying my manor. Do you have any idea of the consequences? I stood atop the pile of rubble, dust settling on my shoulders. Your son, I said, imprisoned my junior brother for 3 days and injured his ear. The middle-aged man frowned. A rabbit demon? My junior brother. Even if he is your junior brother, the man sneered. It is only natural for my son to subdue a masterless spirit beast. You broke into the Yun estate, injured people, and destroyed property. According to the laws of the 3 realms, I can execute you on the spot. The 3 protectors behind him released their spiritual pressure simultaneously. The pressure of the body integration stage blanketed the heavens and the earth, forcing the surrounding servants to their knees, making even breathing a struggle. Little White shrank back in my arms, his ears flattening against his head. I patted him. Don't be afraid. Then, I looked up at the 3 protectors. As the 3 old men met my gaze, they froze simultaneously. The eldest one in the center, his lips trembled, and his spiritual pressure vanished instantly, as if he had been burned. What is it? The city lord sensed something was amiss and looked back. The protectors' faces could no longer be described as pale. They were gray, like a dead man. See, city lord. The eldest's voice sounded as if it were being squeezed through his teeth. Stop. Stop at once. What? This person. The old man's Adam's apple bobbed up and down. This person's aura. I have lived for 8,000 years. And I have only felt it in one place. The city lord frowned. Where? The old man's eyes were filled with nothing but terror. Mount Lingtai Fongsuan. Those 5 words fell like 5 boulders crashing into a lake. The city lord's expression changed. Mount Lingtai Fongsuan. The cave of slanting moon and 3 stars. Under the tutelage of Patriarch Bodhi. In all the 3 realms, who did not know of that place? The great sage equal to heaven came from there. The overturning sea great sage came from there. The shaking heaven great sage came from there. Half of the 72 cave demon kings had once listened to the Tao there. The heavenly court dared not provoke it. The Buddhist sect was unwilling to mention it, and the demon race revered it as a holy land. And the man before them said, that rabbit was his junior brother. Then who was he? The city lord's legs began to go weak. Yo, Your Excellency. His tone had changed completely. Which disciple are you? Under Patriarch Bodhi. I thought for a moment. The first. Silence. A deathly silence. The wind itself stopped. The oldest of the 3 consecrators felt his knees buckle, and he fell straight to the ground. It wasn't an act of submission. It was that his legs could no longer support his weight. The city lord's folding fan slipped from his hand and hit the ground with a clack. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. The first disciple. The first disciple of Patriarch Bodhi. The eldest senior brother of the great sage equal to heaven. The eldest senior brother of those demon kings, immortals, and Buddhas who shook the 3 realms. The city lord's voice was trembling. I didn't know. My son didn't know. I didn't look at him. I looked down at Xiaobai in my arms. The bloody gash on its ear had already scabbed over, but the new fur was still patchy, leaving the pink skin exposed. 3 days, I said. The city lord froze. It spent 3 days in a cage. I looked up at the young man who had been carried out and was still slumped on the ground. Therefore, your son will lie in bed for 3 months. I didn't lift a finger. I didn't need to. The moment the words left my mouth, The young man let out a wretched scream as his legs snapped at an unnatural angle. The sound of bones fracturing was clearly audible. The city lord whipped his head around, and seeing his son's miserable state, the color drained completely from his face. But he didn't dare say a word. Not a single word. I turned and walked out, cradling Xiaobai. As I reached the door, I paused. "The matter of the collar," I said without looking back. "I will remember." The city lord's body swayed, nearly losing his footing. I walked out of the Yun family gates. People on the street were staring at the plume of smoke, buzzing with conversation. No one noticed a man in gray carrying a white rabbit, walking quietly down the long street. Xiaobai poked its head out from my arms, its red eyes blinking. "Senior brother. I'm sorry. I caused you trouble." I gently rubbed its head with my fingers, avoiding the injured left ear. "It's no trouble." It tucked its head back in and said gloomily, "I won't run off anymore." I said nothing. After walking for a while, it peeked out again. "Senior brother. Are you angry?" I looked down at it. Its eyes were red. I couldn't tell if they were naturally that way or if it had been crying. "No. Liar." It gave a small sniffle. "You're always like this when you're angry. You don't have any expression at all." I paused. "A little. I'm sorry. I'm not angry at you." It froze for a moment, then buried its head into my palm, its ears softly covering my fingers. Warm. Soft. I continued walking. I had originally intended to take Xiaobai straight back to the mountain. But as we reached the city gates, Xiaobai suddenly shifted in my arms. "Senior brother, wait a moment." "What's wrong?" It hesitated, its voice very small. I didn't come down the mountain just to look around." I stopped. It crawled out of my arms and transformed into human form, looking like a child of 7 or 8, with messy white hair. The injury on its left ear had become a red mark on the oracle. Standing on the ground, it tugged at the hem of its clothes, not daring to look at me. I heard, "There is a 10,000-year-old Lingji outside Yaoguang City." A Lingji. Its voice grew fainter. "I want to go back and brew tea for senior brother again." I looked at it. Senior brother has swept fallen leaves for 10,000 years. He never leaves the mountain, never cultivates. He only drinks tea. Its fingers twisted the hem of its robe, its knuckles turning white. I wanted to find a good spirit mushroom to brew a pot of fine tea for him. As a gift. A breeze blew past, lifting its white hair and revealing its crimson-tipped ears. But before I could find the mushroom, I was captured by that man. Its eyes welled up as it struggled to hold back tears. "I'm so useless." I stood there, watching it. 10,000 years. I had spent 10,000 years on that mountain. I had taught countless juniors, watching them descend the mountain, watching them achieve fame, and watching them ascend to godhood. Not one had ever returned, and not one had ever thought to bring anything back for me. I knelt down to look it in the eye. It gave a start and took a half-step back. I reached out and tucked its messy white hair behind its ear, carefully avoiding the wound on its left ear. "Where is the mushroom?" It blinked. "Wah. What?" "The 10,000-year spirit mushroom you mentioned. Where is it?" To the east of the city, at Sunset Cliff. But a great demon guards it. I'm no match for it." "Let's go." I stood up and brushed the dust from my clothes. "I'll go with you to pick it." Xiaobai froze for 3 seconds, and then its eyes suddenly lit up. Its ears popped out from its hair, standing bolt upright. "Really?" "Yes." It jumped up, hugged my arm, and nuzzled against it twice. "Senior brother is the best." I was dragged toward the city gate, my pace significantly faster than when I had arrived. Sunset Cliff lay 30 li to the east of Yaoguang City. It was a sheer precipice shrouded in a perennial red mist that, from a distance, looked like the glow of sunset draped across the mountainside. By the time we arrived, the sun had just finished setting. Indeed, there was a Lingji atop the cliff. It was golden red throughout, with a cap as large as a wash basin and spiritual energy so dense it had practically condensed into liquid, dripping down drop by drop. A 10,000-year-old Lingji of exceptional quality. But coiled next to the Lingji was a snake. No, not a snake. A python. Jet black all over and as thick as a water vat. It sat coiled like a small mountain. There were 2 bulges on its triangular head, a sign that it was about to transform into a dragon. a demonic beast of the Great Ascension stage. It reared its upper body, flicking its tongue, its vertical slits staring intently at us. Hiss! Xiaobai hid behind me, only poking half a head out. Senior brother. That's the one. Last time, I didn't even get close before its tail sent me flying. The black python's vertical pupils swept over Xiaobai and then settled on me. It sensed something. Its body tensed, and its scales rasped against the rock with a dry rustle. I took a step forward. The black python suddenly lunged, its mouth agape to reveal two venomous fangs as it let out a deafening roar. I gave it a look. Just one look. The black python's roar came to a screeching halt. Its body seemed drained of all strength. Its massive frame slid down from the cliff top, coiling into a ball as it shrank into a corner. Its triangular head was pressed firmly against the ground. It didn't even dare to flick its tongue anymore. It was trembling. A Great Ascension stage python demon, shaking like an earthworm. Xiaobai peeked out from behind me, mouth forming a perfect O. I walked over to the Lingji, leaned down, and gently pulled it out by the roots. Bits of cliff rock and dew still clung to the root hairs. I turned and handed it to Xiaobai. Here. Xiaobai took it dazedly. The Lingji was larger than their face, its golden red light reflecting off their white hair. Let's go. We're going back to brew tea. Xiaobai clutched the Lingji, looking at me, then at the shivering black python in the corner, then back at me. Senior brother. Just how powerful are you anyway? I thought about it. I don't know. I've never measured it. It tilted its head to look at me, its ears twitching. Then it smiled, hugged the Lingji tighter, and jogged to keep up with me. Let's go home and brew tea. We didn't make it directly back to the mountain. Just as we stepped down from Sunset Cliff, a group of people stood on the road ahead. They were no ordinary people. Clad uniformly in white robes with golden cloud patterns embroidered on their chests and jade plaques hanging from their waists. People of the Tianji Pavilion. The largest intelligence organization in the Three Realms. The leader was a middle-aged scholar holding a feather fan. His expression was refined, but the sharp glint in his eyes could not be hidden. Behind him stood 12 people. Their auras varied, but the weakest among them was at the Tribulation Transcendent stage. I am a deacon of the Tianji Pavilion, surnamed Zhou. The middle-aged scholar cupped his hands, his tone polite, but neither humble nor arrogant. A heaven-shaking anomaly just occurred in Yaoguang City, and I have been ordered to investigate. His gaze fell on me, lingered for a moment, then shifted away. May I ask, are you the one who emerged from the Yun residence? The news traveled fast enough. I didn't speak. Xiaobai clutched the Lingji and hid behind me, watching the group warily. Deacon Zhou smiled. There is no need for concern. The Tianji Pavilion only records. We do not interfere. However, he paused, lightly waving his feather fan. The city lord of the Yun family has already submitted a memorial to the heavenly court. I looked at him, claiming that you are an evil cultivator who injured people without cause, destroyed a residence, and abducted a spiritual beast. His tone was calm, as if he were discussing the weather. The heavenly court has already dispatched people. Xiaobai's hand tightened on the hem of my robe. Senior brother. I patted its head. How long until they arrive? Deacon Zhou froze for a moment, seemingly not expecting that this would be my question. About half an hour. Oh, I continued walking forward. Deacon Zhou stepped aside and watched me pass. After a few steps, he spoke from behind me. Your Excellency. The heavenly court has sent General Zhuanlian this time. My footsteps faltered for a moment. General Zhuanlian. My 7th junior brother. Back then, when he first arrived, he was still a greenhorn. His talent was mediocre, but he was willing to work hard. I taught him the basics for 3 years before he barely managed to cross the threshold. Later, he left the mountain for the heavenly court and became the Jade Emperor's personal bodyguard. I kept walking without looking back. Half an hour later, Xiaobai and I sat under a large tree by the main road. Xiaobai had changed back into its rabbit form and curled up in my lap. I stroked its fur as I waited. A dull thrum of drums echoed from the sky. The clouds parted, and golden light poured down. A squad of heavenly soldiers descended from the clouds, their armor gleaming and their halberds standing like a forest. At their head was a burly man with red hair and a red beard, wielding a demon-subduing staff, his body wreathed in the power of lightning. Zhuanlian. He was much sturdier than he had been 10,000 years ago, and his aura was far more powerful. He landed 30 meters in front of me, thrusting his staff into the ground and causing the earth to crack. What monster dares to cause trouble in Yaoguangci? His voice cut off, because he saw my face clearly. 10,000 years had passed, but my appearance had never changed. Zhuanlian's eyes widened like copper bells, his mouth fell open, and his staff nearly slipped from his grasp. Big. Big. The heavenly soldiers behind him looked at one another, confused about what was happening. Eldest senior brother? I gave him a nod. Wanlian, it has been a long time. Wanlian's precious staff fell to the ground with a clatter. He froze in place, his lips trembling for a long time. Then, he did something that left all the heavenly soldiers dumbfounded. He dropped to one knee. Eldest senior brother. Disciple. Disciple Wanlian greets eldest senior brother. His voice was trembling, his eyes were rimmed with red, and his burly body was bowed extremely low. The heavenly soldiers behind him were completely dazed. General Wanlian, one of the top 10 combatants of the heavenly court, the personal bodyguard general appointed by the Jade Emperor, had knelt, kneeling to someone wearing plain gray cloth. General, a soldier couldn't help but shout. What are you? Wanlian turned his head sharply and roared. Shut up. All of you, get down on your knees. The soldiers were startled, but they didn't move. Wanlian's eyes instantly turned blood red. Do you know who this is? The first disciple of Patriarch Subhuti, the great sage equal to heaven's eldest senior brother. My eldest senior brother. In all the 3 realms. His voice choked up for a moment. Everyone in the 3 realms who came out of Mount Lingtai Fangsuan was taught by eldest senior brother. Dead silence. The wind blew across the main road, swirling a few fallen leaves. Then, with a resounding clatter, all the heavenly soldiers knelt in unison. The sound of clashing armor rang out as one. Little White, resting on my lap, poked its head out. Its round red eyes watched the scene, ears standing straight up. I rubbed its head, stood up, and pulled it into my arms. Rise. Wanlian stood up, rubbing his hands together awkwardly. His former prestige completely vanished. Eldest senior brother, why have you come down the mountain? Is master doing well? He saw the white rabbit in my arms and froze for a moment. This is my junior brother. Junior brother? Wanlian's eyes widened. Master has taken another disciple? Yes. Wanlian immediately leaned in with a grin. Hello, junior brother. I am your 7th senior brother. Little White shrank back, giving me a timid look. I nodded. It finally whispered, Hello, 7th senior brother. Zhuanlian beamed with joy, unable to close his mouth. He reached out to pat its head, but his hand froze mid-air when he saw the wound on its left ear. This wound. His expression darkened, and he turned to look toward the direction of Yaoguang City. Who did this? I didn't say anything. Zhuanlian looked at my expression, then at how Xiaobai was huddled in my arms. His teeth ground together with a rasping sound. That little brat from the Yun family. I still didn't speak. But Zhuanlian already understood. He turned and roared at the celestial soldiers. Pass down the order. The Yun family of Yaoguang City has mistreated a disciple of Mount Lingtai Fangsuan. This is an act of treason. Seize their properties immediately. Strip the city lord of his post. As for that young master. No need, I said. Zhuanlian was stunned. I have already dealt with it. Zhuanlian opened his mouth, then closed it again. He looked at me and suddenly smiled, scratching the back of his head. That's just like eldest senior brother's temper. Protecting your own junior brothers yourself. He paused, then added, but as for the matter of the memorial, I'll clear it up with the Jade Emperor when I return. If anyone dares to file a complaint against eldest senior brother, I'll tear them apart. I glanced at him. You've certainly become more capable than you used to be. Zhuanlian gave a silly grin, revealing a row of white teeth. Then his expression suddenly became complicated. He lowered his head, his voice sounding muffled. Eldest senior brother, in these 10,000 years, I have always wanted to return to the mountain to see you. But the heavenly court has been busy, and No need to explain. He looked up. I said, as long as you are doing well, that's enough. Zhuanlian's eyes reddened. He blinked hard twice and looked up at the sky. Eldest senior brother, I'll head back to report first. Another day. Another day, I'll bring some wine up the mountain to see you. All right. He soared into the sky with the celestial soldiers, golden light piercing the heavens. He flew a great distance away, yet he still turned back to shout, "Take care, eldest senior brother. Little junior brother, be good now." The voice was scattered by the wind. Xiaobai poked his head out from my arms, watching the golden light gradually vanish from the sky. "Senior brother. Are all the junior brothers you've taught this incredible?" I thought about it for a moment. "He is considered average." Xiaobai's ears twitched, and he buried his face back into my chest. "Then doesn't that make me the most useless one?" he said dejectedly. I looked down at him. "You're the youngest. That's still being useless. You picked spirit ratio for me." His ears flickered, but he didn't say anything. However, I could feel his face, buried against my palm, growing warm. Something unexpected happened on the way back to the mountain. As we were passing a city, the sky suddenly went dark. It wasn't the darkness of a sunset. It was as if something had blotted out the sky. I looked up. A colossal palm reached down from the clouds, obscuring the sun. With the palm facing downward, it pressed down toward where we stood. A Buddha's palm. Xiaobai gave a cry of alarm and transformed back into his human form, gripping my arm tightly. "Senior brother." I stood my ground, unmoving. The Buddha's palm pressed down until it was roughly 30 feet above our heads, then came to a halt. A beam of golden light descended from the heavens and landed before me. As the golden light faded, a monk appeared. He had a shaved head, wore a kasaya, and held a 9-ringed kakara. His expression was peaceful, yet an unyielding defiance burned between his brows, impossible to hide. He looked at me, the corners of his mouth slowly curling upward. "Eldest senior brother." I looked at him. "Wukong. Great sage equal to heaven. Victorious fighting Buddha. My third junior brother." He was much more composed than he had been 10,000 years ago, but when he smiled, he still looked like the same monkey from back then. "I knew it," he said, withdrawing his palm and thumping his kakara onto the ground. When news from the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion reached Spirit Mountain saying that the eldest senior brother of Mount Lingtai Fongsuan had descended, I didn't believe it. He circled around me once, clicking his tongue in wonder. 10,000 years, and senior brother still looks exactly the same. "You haven't changed a bit." I looked at his shaved head and his monastic robes. "You've changed quite a lot." Wukong rubbed his bald head and grinned. "It can't be helped. Now that I've become a Buddha, I have to look the part." His gaze fell on Xiaobai behind me. Xiaobai was staring at him with wide eyes and a slightly agape mouth, looking as if he had seen a ghost. The great sage equal to heaven." Wukong squatted down to meet Xiaobai's gaze, his golden eyes curving into crescents. "Little junior brother?" Xiaobai suddenly ducked behind me, leaving only his 2 ears poking out. Wukong laughed heartily, stood up, and brushed the dust from his hands. "What are you afraid of? I don't eat rabbits." He turned back to me, his smile fading slightly as his tone turned serious. "Senior brother, I heard about the matter in Yaoguang City." "Yes. That kid from the Yun family got what he deserved." He paused. "But senior brother, now that you've come down the mountain, the entire 3 realms knows." I looked at him. His expression became somewhat complicated. "Senior brother, you might not know, but for the past 10,000 years, there has been a legend in the 3 realms." "What legend?" "That Patriarch Bodhi has a first disciple who has never left the mountain and never once struck a blow. No one has seen him, and no one knows the depth of his cultivation." He looked at me, my reflection mirrored in his golden pupils. "Every disciple who has come out of Mount Lingtai Fongsuan, no matter what they later became, great sage, heavenly general, demon king, or Buddha, has only one thing to say when mentioning eldest senior brother." "What is it?" Wukong smiled. "I don't know how strong he is, but he's definitely stronger than me." He shrugged his shoulders. "So, the moment you descended the mountain, the heavenly court panicked, Spirit Mountain panicked, and the demon clans panicked. Everyone was guessing. Why has eldest senior brother come down?" I looked down at Xiaobai, who poked his head out from my arms. "To find him." Wukong froze for a moment, then burst out laughing. Just to find our little junior brother. He said he would be back in 3 days. On the 4th day, he hadn't returned." Wukong laughed even harder, squatting on the ground and pounding the earth. Ha ha ha. The three realms are shaken. The heavenly court and spirit mountain are in a total uproar, all because a little rabbit was one day late coming home. Ha ha ha. Xiao Bai's face flushed bright red, and his ears drooped. I waited for him to finish laughing. He wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, stood up, and patted the dust off his cassock. All right, senior brother, I'll spread the word for you. Eldest senior brother came down only to find his junior, not to flip anyone's table. That should keep those people from trembling in fear. He paused, then added, but senior brother, there's something I must remind you of. Speak. Although the memorial from the Lord of Yun City was suppressed by senior brother Zhuanlian, there is someone backing the Yun family. I looked at him. Yaoguang City is under the jurisdiction of the Dragon Clan of the East Sea. The Yun family acts as their proxies on land. His tone was flat, but there was a flicker of coldness in his eyes. The city lord dared to file a complaint so quickly because he believes the Dragon Clan will back him up. The Dragon Clan. Yes. Ao Guang, the Dragon King of the East Sea. Wukong spun his Kakura staff. When I went to his dragon palace to borrow the Dinghai Shenzhen back then, he held a grudge that lasts to this day. If he finds out it was your little junior brother who was bullied by his people. He didn't finish, but the meaning was clear. Ao Guang might not let this go easily. It wouldn't be for the sake of the Yun family, but for the sake of face. The face of the Dragon Clan. I nodded. I know. Wukong glanced at me, seeming as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he only smiled. Never mind. I've never had to worry about anything senior brother does. He soared into the sky, radiating 10,000 rays of golden light. Senior brother, I'll come up the mountain to see you and master another day. I'll bring that fool Beiji with me. All right. The golden light receded into the distance. Xiao Bai crawled out from my arms, stood on the ground, and looked up at the light vanishing in the sky. Senior brother. Yes. The great sage equal to heaven. Was he taught by you? Yes. And that curtain-lifting general as well? Yes. It fell silent for a moment. Just how many powerful people has senior brother taught? I thought for a moment. I can't quite remember. Xiao Bai looked at me, a complex light in its eyes. Admiration, heartache, and a hint of grievance. Then why? Have you not come down the mountain for 10,000 years? I looked at the mountains in the distance. The silhouette of Mount Lingtai Fangsuan was faintly visible, shrouded in mist and clouds. There was nothing I wanted to do. And now, I looked down at it. It stood there, its white hair disheveled by the wind, the wound on its left ear not yet fully healed, clutching a golden red spirit mushroom larger than its face as it looked up at me. Now I have something. It tilted its head. What? I'm taking you home. Its ears shot up instantly, its face flushing crimson as it held up the Lingji to hide itself. Let's go? Hurry. I gave a slight smile. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but Xiao Bai saw it, and its ears trembled even more violently. We hadn't gone far. The sky ahead suddenly turned a deep blue, and the briny scent of the sea surged toward us from all directions. The ground began to seep water. It wasn't rain. The water bubbled up from beneath the earth, rising past our ankles and over our calves. Xiao Bai let out a startled cry, transforming back into a rabbit and leaping onto my shoulder, its four paws clutching my collar tightly. Senior brother. Water. So much water. The water continued to rise. Yet, within 3 feet of where I stood, not a single drop could penetrate. A rift tore open in the sky ahead, and seawater poured from the crack, forming a shimmering curtain of water. A figure stepped out from the curtain. No, not a human. Dragon horns, dragon whiskers, a golden dragon robe, and a staff made of coral and jade. The Dragon King of the East Sea, Ao Guang. Behind him followed an army of shrimp soldiers and crab generals, a dense, dark mass that covered the entire official road. Another person stood beside Ao Guang, the city lord of Yaoguang City, that middle-aged man from the Yun family. His face wore a look of ruthlessness, the expression of someone who had survived a disaster and found a powerful backer. It's him. The city lord pointed at me. Your Highness Dragon King, it's this man. He injured my son and destroyed my estate. Ao Guang lifted his eyelids and looked at me. His gaze lingered on me for a moment, his brow furrowing slightly. You are the one who broke into the Yun residence? I said nothing. Xiaobai curled into a ball on my shoulder, trembling all over. Ao Guang's gaze swept over the rabbit, a cold sneer curling his lips. For the sake of a rabbit demon, you injured the son of my vassal and destroyed his home. What audacity! He struck his jade staff against the ground, and the water's surface exploded, sending waves 30 feet into the air. This king shall give you one chance. Kneel, hand over that rabbit demon, and destroy your own cultivation. Then, I will spare your life. Xiao Bai's claws gripped tighter, his voice trembling. Senior brother. Maybe you should just hand me over. I don't want senior brother to suffer because of me. I reached out, took him off my shoulder, and held him in my palm. His eyes were brimming with tears, and his nose twitched rhythmically. I brushed the corner of his eye with my thumb. I told you, I said softly. You are my junior brother. Then, I tucked him into my robe and wrapped him up securely. I looked up and met Ao Guang's gaze. What did you just say? Ao Guang frowned. This king said. No, I interrupted him. The part after that. Hand over the rabbit demon. After that. Destroy your cultivation? Even further back. Ao Guang's face darkened. Spare your life. Oh, I nodded. You will spare my life. I repeated the words, my tone as flat as if I were commenting on the pleasant weather. Ao Guang's brow furrowed even deeper. He sensed something was wrong, but he couldn't quite put his finger on what it was. Behind him, the shrimp soldiers and crab generals began to stir. The faces of several high-ranking generals turned pale as they instinctively backed away. The city lord, standing nearby, continued to fan the flames. Your Highness, this man is arrogant to the extreme. He must be some rogue cultivator from the sticks, looking down on everyone just because he has a modicum of power. Ao Guang let out a cold snort, releasing his draconic might. The pressure of a Daluo golden immortal poured down, the water boiled, and the very heavens changed color. One last chance. Kneel, or die. I stood there. The water reached my knees, but the hem of my robe remained dry. I raised my right hand. I simply raised it. I did nothing else. But Ao Guang's dragon might shattered. Like glass, it cracked down the middle, then splintered and dissipated. All the water, all the waves, all the seawater falling from the sky, stilled in that same instant. Then, it flowed backward. With a great rushing sound, it retreated into the cracks in the sky, back into the depths of the earth, receding until everything was clean. The ground became dry once more. Ao Guang's face turned pale. His hands were trembling. He could barely hold his jade staff. You? I took a step forward. Only one step. But what Ao Guang felt was a mountain pressing down upon him. No, it wasn't a mountain. It was the heavens. His knees began to buckle. It wasn't that he wanted to kneel. It was his body telling him, kneel, or you will die. Who exactly are you? His voice cracked, and the light on his dragon horns flickered frantically. The city lord also sensed something was wrong. The smugness on his face vanished, replaced by terror. I looked at Ao Guang. 10,000 years ago, I said, a monkey went to your dragon palace and took an iron staff. Ao Guang's pupils constricted violently. That monkey was my third junior brother. Ao Guang's face turned from white to ash gray. 500 years ago, a monk passed through your territory, and your son was taken to serve as a mount. Ao Guang's lips began to tremble. That monk's eldest disciple is also my third junior brother. I took another step forward. General Rolling Curtain is my seventh junior brother. Martial Canopy, my fifth junior brother. The great sage who overturns the sea, my fourth junior brother. With every name I spoke, Ao Guang's body seemed to sink lower. They all call me eldest senior brother. Ao Guang's knees finally gave way. With a heavy thud, the Dragon King of the East Sea knelt upon the dry ground. Behind him, the shrimp soldiers and crab generals fell like wheat before a scythe, kneeling in unison across the earth. The city lord's legs turned to jelly. He slumped to the ground, his face the color of ash. Ao Guang knelt there, trembling violently, the light from his dragon horns completely extinguished. Say, Senior, this lowly king was blind. This lowly king did not know. I looked down at him. You said you would spare my life. Ao Guang shook like chaff in a sieve. Now, my voice was very soft, as light as a mountain breeze. I spare yours. Ao Guang's forehead slammed against the ground with a dull thud. Thank you, Senior. Thank you, Senior, for your mercy. I did not look at him again. I turned and continued walking. After 2 steps, I stopped and glanced sideways at the city lord slumped on the ground. The moment the city lord met my gaze, his eyes rolled back, and he fainted on the spot. Xiaobai poked its head out from my robes, looking at the dragon army kneeling across the ground, and then at the unconscious city lord. Its mouth hung open for a long time before it finally managed to squeeze out a single sentence. Senior brother, you were so cool just now. I looked down at it. Its ears turned red again, and it quickly pulled its head back inside. The walk back to the mountain was slow. It wasn't that I was walking slowly. It was that Xiaobai insisted on walking in human form. I want to walk by myself. It moved its short legs stubbornly, clutching the sprig of Lingji as it climbed the mountain step by step. The stone steps were long, and its legs were short. It started to pant after only 100 steps. But it wouldn't let me carry it. I'm already 300 years old. I'm not a child anymore. It spoke breathlessly, its ears poking out from its hair, damp with sweat and plastered against its cheeks. I walked beside it, slowing my pace. By the time we reached halfway up the mountain, it finally couldn't go on. It flopped down onto a stone step, resting the Lingji on its lap, gasping for breath. Senior brother. Yes. Do you think I can become powerful one day? I sat down beside it. You want to be powerful? Yes. It lowered its head, poking the cap of the Lingji with a finger. I don't want senior brother to have to save me every time. I want to be able to protect you too. I looked at it. Its profile was still that of a child, but the light in its eyes was earnest. I'll train hard, it said, looking up at me. I'll learn whatever you teach me. I won't be lazy anymore. I reached out and brushed aside the damp ear clinging to its face. All right, it smiled, revealing 2 little canines. Then it stood up, picked up the Lingji, and continued to climb. After 3 steps, it turned back to look at me. Hurry up, senior brother. I want to go back and brew tea for you. I stood up and followed. A breeze blew down from the mountain, carrying the familiar, fresh scent of herbs and greenery. As we neared the mountain gate, I saw someone standing there. Master. He stood at the entrance with his hands behind his back, watching us. His expression was the same as ever, betraying neither joy nor anger. When Xiaobai saw Master, it immediately quickened its pace and ran up with a skip and a hop. Master, I'm back. Master looked at it, then at the Lingji in its arms, and then at the wound on its ear. Then he looked at me. I climbed the last stone step and stood before him. You're back, he said. MHM. Didn't tear the mountain down? No. He nodded, turned, and walked toward the cave dwelling. After 2 steps, he stopped, without looking back. The tea is cold. Reheat it yourself. Then he left. Xiaobai tilted its head, watching Master's retreating figure, and whispered to me, Is Master angry? I looked at Master's back. His pace was a tiny bit faster than usual. Only a tiny bit. No, I said. He's happy. I can't tell. You'll know once you've watched him long enough. I took the Lingji from its arms and walked toward the courtyard. Come on, let's brew the tea. Xiaobai followed behind me, trotting to keep up with my pace. Senior brother, wait for me. I slowed down. It ran up beside me and reached out to grab the hem of my robe. I didn't pull away. Another layer of fallen leaves had gathered in the courtyard. The broom was still leaning against the mountain gate, exactly as it had been before I left. I looked at the fallen leaves, then at the Lingji in my hand. Let's brew the tea first. MHM. Xiaobai ran to light the fire, while I went to wash the Lingji. As the spring water rushed over the Lingji's surface, a golden red light shimmered and spread through the water like a liquid sunset. I sliced the Lingji into thin pieces, placed them in a ceramic pot, added mountain spring water, and set it on the stove Xiaobai had prepared. As the water slowly heated, the fragrance of the Lingji began to permeate the air until the entire courtyard was shrouded in a layer of pale golden mist. Xiaobai squatted by the stove, chin resting in its hands, staring fixedly at the ceramic pot. The firelight reflected on its face, making its red eyes sparkle. It smells so good. Yes. Senior brother, can we drink this every day from now on? One Lingji won't last every day. Then I'll go pick more. It stood up and patted its chest. Once I've become more capable, I'll go pick lots and lots of them. I looked at it. There's no need to go picking. Why? Having you here is enough. It froze. Its ears slowly pricked up, and its face turned from white to pink, then from pink to red. Say, senior brother, what did you just say? The tea is ready. I lifted the lid and poured 2 cups. The tea was golden and crystal clear, with a dense, swirling spiritual aura. I picked up a cup and took a sip. It was wonderful. Better than any tea I had drunk in 10,000 years. Xiaobai picked up the other cup and took small, delicate sips, its eyes curving into crescent moons. Is it good, senior brother? It is. Really, really. It smiled, its eyes curving until they vanished, its ears wiggling atop its head. The setting sun dipped behind the mountain, dyeing the entire courtyard gold. Fallen leaves carpeted the ground. I would sweep them tomorrow. After that day, news spread throughout the 3 realms. The head disciple of Patriarch Bodhi of Lingtai Fangsuan Mountain had descended the mountain for the first time in 10,000 years. The reason? To find a rabbit. The heavenly court held 3 emergency meetings over this, finally reaching a conclusion. Do not provoke that rabbit. Spirit Mountain chanted sutras for 7 days, and finally, the Buddha himself issued a decree. Disciples of Lingtai Fangsuan Mountain were granted free passage through the 3 realms and were not to be obstructed. The demon tribes were even more direct. The dragon kings of the 4 seas jointly issued a notice. The White Rabbit Demon is the youngest disciple of Lingtai Fangsuan Mountain. No tribe shall offend it, or they must face the consequences. Ao Guang, the Dragon King of the East Sea, personally delivered 3 carts of treasures to the gates of Lingtai Fangsuan Mountain. My master's crane snatched a single night-luminescent pearl, and the rest were returned untouched. The Yun family of Yaoguang City was seized and their assets confiscated. I wasn't the one who did it. The heavenly court was. After Zhuanlian returned, he reported the matter to the Jade Emperor exactly as it had happened. The Jade Emperor remained silent for a long time before issuing a decree. The city lord of the Yun family was dismissed for dereliction of duty. The young master of the Yun family was to be given 300 strokes of the staff for abusing a spirit beast and demoted to a mortal. It was said that when the decree arrived, the young master of the Yun family was still lying in bed with both legs in splints. When he heard the words, demoted to a mortal, he fainted instantly. All of this was told to me by Wukong when he later came up the mountain. He really did bring Beiji with him. Beiji was thinner than before, but he could still eat. In a single meal, he finished half a year's worth of my stored grain, earning several glares from Little White. 5th senior brother, you eat too much. That's senior brother's rice. Beiji let out a loud burp, rubbed his belly, and chuckled. Little junior brother, don't be angry, don't be angry. I'll bring food next time. Wukong sat at the stone table in the courtyard, legs crossed, snacking on spirit fruits as he watched Little White chase Beiji all over the yard. Eldest senior brother, he tilted his head to look at me. You're living a good life. I held my teacup, leaning against a porch pillar. It's always been good. You used to say that even when you were alone. I took a sip of tea and didn't reply. Wukong flicked a fruit pit, hitting Beiji right on the back of the head. But looking at it now, it really is different. I looked at Little White in the courtyard. It chased Beiji for 3 laps without catching him. In a fit of pique, it shifted back into its rabbit form, leapt 3 feet into the air, and began head-butting Beiji's shins. Beiji hopped around, yelping in pain, while Wukong doubled over with laughter. Shifu appeared at the cave entrance at some unknown point. He took one look at the farce in the courtyard, shook his head, and went back inside. But I saw the corner of his mouth twitch. The upward kind. Later, Zhuanlian arrived, bringing 3 jars of celestial brew from the heavenly court. Then, the great sage who overturns the seas arrived with a basket of coral fruits from the East Sea. After that, even the bull demon king showed up, hauling a roasted spiritual ox as an apology. He had smashed a rock at the mountain gate when he and Wukong had their falling out years ago and had never come to say sorry until now. Xiaobai was terrified by this crowd of senior brothers and hid behind me, refusing to come out. But eventually, it realized they were all very kind. Zhuanlian peeled fruit for it. Wukong transformed into a tiny monkey to make it laugh, and even when it rode on Beiji's head and chased him around the courtyard, he didn't get angry. Gradually, its fear vanished. It even began to direct them in sweeping the fallen leaves. 7th Senior Brother, you missed a spot over there. 5th Senior Brother, stop snacking and get back to work. 3rd Senior Brother, don't use magic. Senior Brother said it only has meaning if we sweep it ourselves. Wukong held his broom, looking utterly weary of life. Eldest Senior Brother, are you sure this is what you taught it? I sipped my tea and said nothing, but the corner of my mouth quirked up. That night, the brothers all left. Silence returned to the courtyard. Moonlight blanketed the stone steps, and the fallen leaves had been swept perfectly clean. Xiaobai lay on my lap, already fast asleep. It had been too excited today. Shifting forms repeatedly had drained a lot of its spiritual energy. Now it was curled into a palm-sized ball, its breathing steady, ears twitching occasionally. The wound on its left ear had healed, and the new fur growing in was a brilliant, shining white. I covered it with a large leaf to serve as a blanket. The moonlight fell upon it, fluffy and soft. It looked like a ball of breathing snow. Shifu's voice drifted softly from within the cave. When I found you all those years ago, you were just as small. I turned toward the cave. I couldn't see Shifu, only the candlelight flickering through the cracks in the door. A wisp of spiritual energy, formless, drifting at the mountain peak, nearly dissipated. I didn't speak. I nurtured you for 10,000 years, yet you refused to take a single step away from this mountain. The candlelight flickered. I thought you would always be this way. A moment of silence passed. Yet, in the end, a single rabbit tricked you into leaving the mountain. I looked down at Xiaobai on my lap. It rolled over, burying its face in my palm, its mouth twitching as if it were eating something in its dreams. Master, thank you for taking me in back then. The cave dwelling remained silent for a long time. Then, a faint laugh echoed. You brat. The candlelight went out. I leaned against a pillar on the porch, one hand cradling Xiaobai, the other holding a teacup. The tea had gone cold, but the lingering fragrance of the spirit Raisher remained. The mountain wind blew past, carrying the chill of the night dew. I would have to sweep the fallen leaves tomorrow, but there was no rush. I closed my eyes. For the first time in 10,000 years, I felt. On this mountain, there were more than just fallen leaves and the wind. There was also the heartbeat of a rabbit, pressed against my palm, thrumming beat by beat. So soft, so warm, so good.